Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Kent City Council meeting for Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. If you could all please rise and join me in the flag salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Melissa, can you please call the roll?
Mayor Ralph.
Here.
Council President Gore.
Here.
Councilmember Boyce.
Here.
Councilmember Boyd.
Here.
Councilmember Fincher.
Here.
Councilmember Larmer.
Here.
Councilmember Michaud.
Here.
And Councilmember Troutner.
Here.
Great, thank you. Next item on our agenda is approval. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda. However, we do have a closed session to discuss collective bargaining pursuant to 423144A, and we will have action afterwards.
All right, thank you. Approximately how long?
Thank you. Approximately 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So no changes, but with that noted, is there a motion to approve the agenda as published?
So move. Second.
Thank you.
I'm dying and everybody watching me. Thank you. You got my back. Oh, man.
We have a motion, a second, a bless you.
Thank you.
All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda stands as published. That moves us right into public communications. We have three items and community events under public communications this evening. The first is a proclamation for Constitution Week, and joining us tonight is Anita Spear from the Lakota chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I am going to go ahead and read the proclamation. We'll have you come forward. We'll do a quick picture so we can let everybody know about the proclamation, and I'll have you say a few words. All right, the proclamation says, whereas September 17, 2025 marks the 239th anniversary of the adoption and signing of the Constitution of the United States of America. And whereas the United States Constitution, America's most important document, stands as a testament to the tenacity of Americans throughout history to maintain their liberties, freedoms, and inalienable rights. And whereas in 1955, Daughters of the American Revolution petitioned Congress to set aside September 17 through 23 annually to be dedicated for the observance of Constitution Week, the resolution was later adopted by the U.S. Congress and signed into public law on August 2, 1956 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Now therefore I, Dana Ralph, Mayor of Kent, do hereby proclaim September 17th through the 23rd, 2025 to be Constitution Week in the city of Kent, and I encourage Kent residents to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution and celebrate the rights and freedoms that we enjoy as a people of this proud nation. And I come down and we'll do our photo. Sir.
Hi, everybody. For the past 3 years, I've come to accept the proclamation for the Constitution from the City Council, Kent City Council, and I thank them very sincerely. The U.S. celebrates 250 years next year. I'm with the Lakota chapter of the American Revolution. Our chapter was formed in 1981, and DAR is 134 years old. We play an active role in Federal Way, Auburn, Kent, Covington, Maple Valley, and Renton. Our mission is God, home, and country, and we are involved in historic preservation, patriotism, and education. There are almost 190,000 active members worldwide, and we own a bunch of property in Washington, D.C., close to the White House. Last year, I talked about what America would look like if we had not won the Revolutionary War, and we did not have a constitution, and were under the thumb of the king and the English Parliament. It was all my opinions and musings, but it painted a pretty grim picture of how our world would look, considerably different. It was meant to pique your interest to think how you might think America would look if we hadn't won the war. This year, with the new president, and the word Constitution has been flung around, if something is constitutional or not, why, he can't do that, it's not constitutional. And then the talking heads got involved and started hollering, it is or it is not constitutional. Then there are those who want to interpret the Constitution differently from as should it be interpreted the way it was written, or should it be interpreted in today's world as we think today. The news people don't know any more than we do. Nobody knows what they're talking about, and that includes me. But no more. I have a copy of the Constitution of the United States, and there is a copy for each one of you. I'm not a constitutional scholar, but no longer will be not in the know, because when someone yells out, it's not constitutional, we're going to pull our copy from our back pocket or our purse and say, well, let me look that up for you. Let's see what it says. Your friends will be astonished that you carry a copy of the Constitution, much less pull it out and offer to look it up. No longer will you be subject to people's opinions about the constitutionality of anything. So for you today, a free copy of the U.S. Constitution. Read it, be informed, and celebrate 250 years of freedom. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. We are going to move on to the next proclamation, and it is a proclamation for National Diaper Need Awareness Week. And joining us is Carolina Liendo. Did I get that right? All right. From KidVantage Northwest. And so I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. We'll do a photo, and then I'll have you say a few words. I will start with, I think that this is one of those proclamations that we do annually that always gives me pretty significant pause about the level of need when it comes to something I think a lot of families take for granted. So I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation now. It says, whereas diaper need, the condition of not being able to afford a sufficient supply of clean diapers to keep babies and toddlers clean, dry, and healthy, can adversely affect the health and well-being of children and their families. And whereas national surveys and research studies report that nearly 1 in 2 families struggle with diaper need, and 48% of families delay changing a diaper to extend the available supply. And whereas a daily or weekly supply of diapers is generally an eligibility requirement for babies and toddlers to participate in child care programs and quality early childhood education that enable children to thrive and parents to work. And whereas without enough diapers, babies and toddlers risk infections and health problems that may require medical attention, resulting in medical costs, and parents may be prevented from accessing child care needs to go to work or school, thereby destabilizing the family's economic prospects and well-being. And whereas the people of Kent recognize that diaper need is a public health issue and addressing diaper need can lead to economic opportunity for the state's families and communities and improved health for children, thus ensuring all children and families have access to the basic necessities required to thrive and reach their full potential. And whereas Kent is proud to be home to trusted community-based organizations, including KidVantage and Westside Baby, that recognize the importance of diapers in ensuring health and providing economic stability for families, and thus distribute diapers to families through various channels. And whereas through their important work of addressing diaper need and diaper banks, they play a critical role in supporting families, improving infant health and well-being, and advancing our local and state economic growth. Now, therefore, I, Dana Ralph, Mayor of Kent, do hereby proclaim the week of September 15th through the 21st 2025 as National Diaper Awareness Week in Kent, Washington, and I thank the aforementioned diaper banks, their staff, volunteers, and donors for their courageous service during the crisis and encourage citizens of Kent to donate generously to diaper banks, diaper drives, and support those organizations that collect and distribute diapers to families struggling with diaper needs so that all Kent children and families can thrive and reach their full potential.
Thank you for this opportunity. The National Diaper Bank did a study last year, and they say like the families, 1 or 2 families need diaper needs. Also, the parents cannot go to work because they don't have diaper for the daycare. Also, they say that 1 or 4 families skip a meal in order to provide diapers. The low-income families, 60% of the low-income family cannot afford diapers. They said in the study that the gap in the country is 4.8 billion of diapers. Washington State, the gap is almost 89 million of diapers. And only King County is 18 million of those diapers, the gap. Kent is our largest city of distribution numbers and resident numbers. Our partners help provide the diapers at a grassroots, the Afghani Health Initiative, King County Health Authority, and also by Maple Place. I would like to finish with 2 quotes. One quote is from our partner, say, "Everyone deserves to be seen and known. One way we can do that is through giving our family diapers. It shows them that we see them and their need, and we care about them." Another quote is from Salma Hayek in a gala in 2023, the Baby to Baby, another network. She said, "Dignity is an essential. Diapers are dignity. When you give diapers to a baby, you are also giving dignity to a family." Thank you.
That is very powerful. Thank you. All right. Our next proclamation is for Hispanic Heritage Month, and joining us this evening are Juan and Rosie Murguia, and they are the owners of La Huerta Market. We are so fortunate to have La Huerta here in the Kent community. We were just able to celebrate the birthday. Council President Cora and I were there. Fantastic celebration, and I just want to say thank you for coming this evening to accept this proclamation. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. It says, whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month, known as Mes de Herencia Hispana, is celebrated nationwide from September 15th through October 15th each year. The observation started in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week and was expanded by President Ronald Reagan in 1988 to cover the month at which it is celebrated today. And whereas the day of September 15th is significant because it is the anniversary of the independence for Latin American countries, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. In addition, Mexico and Chile celebrate their Independence Days on September 16th and 18th, respectively. And whereas the City of Kent looks forward to celebrating Mes de Herencia Hispana with the greater community to highlight the rich heritage, arts, histories, food, music, and traditions of all 26-plus Latin American nations, while recognizing that these nations are not monogamous, this month celebrates, honors, and pays tribute to all of their contributions to our city and society. And whereas the City of Kent recognizes the significant contributions of all Hispanic residents, city employees, business leaders, and outreach groups that help increase cultural awareness, education, enrichment, and community engagement, it is through their support and community involvement that our city has continued to become more culturally diverse and welcoming for everyone. Now, therefore, I, Dana Ralph, Mayor of Kent, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th, 2025, to be Hispanic Heritage Month in Kent, Washington, and call upon our residents to recognize the achievements and contributions Hispanics have made to our city and our community. It's good to see you both.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for this recognition for our independence, and also for, so you know, we have a business, a grocery store. It's been 20 years. The purpose of my business is when I came here to this state, it was hard to find a product that we all the Hispanics looking for, and it was all the time. And we still work on it. We had a couple meetings with the mayor in the past, try to make it better for our customers and the community around here in Kent. So thank you again for this recognition, and I hope we can go bigger and bigger later. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. The next item on our agenda is community events. Council President.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have events happening at Acceso Showwear Center. On September 20th, we have Seattle T-Birds home opener versus Tri-City Americans. And I believe we do have a flag ceremony happening here at the City Hall tomorrow at 3 p.m. October 3, Seattle T-Birds versus Kamloops Blazers. October 4 is Palomazo Norteño Perfecta Tour. And October 5 is Abhijit Bhattacharya live in concert. October 11 is Seattle T-Birds again versus Spokane Chiefs. And October 22 through 26 is exciting Disney on Ice back here at Showwear Center. And all those tickets are available on accessoshowwearcenter.com. Back to you, Madam Mayor.
All right. Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have several recycling events coming up. We have a mini recycling event on the 19th, which is this week. We also have a hazardous waste recycling event in case you have things that need to be taken that you need to get rid of that you can't normally just toss in the trash. That also is on the 19th. And then our fall recycling event on the 11th, and our Team Up to Clean Up. The fall version is September 27th. All of that can be found online, kentwa.gov/talkingtrash. Plenty of information about what you can take for Team Up to Clean Up, where meeting places are, what you can do as far and how to register, all sorts of information there. And on the art side, again, Spotlight Series, you can get your tickets. I have my first tickets here for this season. So not free entertainment, entertainment at a low price. It's local. Almost all of the concerts are at Kent Meridian and their Performing Arts Center. This one happens to be out at Kentwood, still close, so take advantage of it. These are national and international groups that come through. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also forgot there's a Green Kent party happening, a work party happening at Three Friends Fishing Hole on Saturday, 9 a.m. to noon.
All right. Thank you. And the registration information is available for that on the website. So, as you can see, a lot going on around our community. Really excited for all of those events. All right, we are going to move on. Item number 5 is reports. So each and every one of the council members that sits up here not only represents you as a city council member here on the first and third Tuesdays of the month, but they also serve on regional and statewide committees. That ensures that the city of Kent is represented in those very important policy conversations and funding conversations. Without that voice, things happen to us instead of with us. And so I will tell you, I continue to be very grateful for the level of engagement of this council in those regional conversations. I'm going to start with a few updates from regional committees that I serve on, starting with the Economic Development District through Puget Sound Regional Council. We had a meeting several weeks ago talking about the regional economic strategy. So how does the 4-county region come together to support economic development, which results in community vitality and opportunity for everyone? We set out the primary goals for the regional economic strategy and their economic opportunity, and that's, again, ensuring that everyone has access to opportunity, quality of life, making sure that we're supporting quality of life for our regional residents, business, and visitors. Global competitiveness. We live in a global economy, and if we are not competitive around the world, then we are not going to be prosperous. And then business climate, fostering a business climate that supports regional economy and encourages business growth and expansion. So we've laid out those goals, continuing to work on the development of that economic strategy in through 2026. I also serve on the Transportation Policy Board at Puget Sound Regional Council, and we are in the process of developing the Regional Transportation Plan. Much like every other sort of economic picture, there is a really significant gap when it comes to funding for transportation. We know that both here at the City of Kent, the county is experiencing it, we're experiencing it statewide. So we're looking at some different alternatives as we develop that transportation plan, everything from fully funding and honestly a crossing your fingers strategy, which I don't think anybody is supportive of, to how do we pare back and how do we make sure that important things like maintenance and operations are sustained, but maybe not doing the large scale projects, or what makes the most sense. So the board has not settled on an alternative yet. We'll be doing that at our next meeting, but really diving deep into what does the revenue that we have pay for, what does it look like for new revenue across the region, and then what does it look like to do more of a status quo plan. Finally, the last regional committee I have to report on is Regional Policy Council. You've heard Councilmember Fincher talk about MID many times at this committee, mental illness and drug dependency. That is a sales tax that King County leveraged years ago. It is up for renewal, and there is considerable conversation. The King County Council has brought forward a proposal to renew that tax for 9 years. The recommendation from Sound Cities, the cities in King County outside of Seattle, was to put a pause on and potentially only renew that tax for 2 years. It was not a lack of support for the mental illness and drug dependency sales tax as much as it was there has to be a plan in place. Many of you have seen the report out about the audit findings at King County and accountability when it comes to spending. The concern of our group was without a plan in place, that accountability piece is really hard to come to. So we asked that the King County Council consider a shorter term renewal, which would allow for that plan to be developed and put in place and vetted, as opposed to that longer term 9-year renewal. Ultimately, it is up to the King County Council, but I felt like it was important to highlight that for both the council and our residents. Finally, my last report is we wound up the summer series of Drinks in the Driveway. So that's an opportunity for neighbors to come out, get to know each other, and hear updates. I want to say a huge thank you to Chad Barron, our Public Works Director, for attending those events with me, as well as Deputy Chief Stansfield, Kelly Peterson, Chief Padilla. Really great opportunity to meet with many neighborhoods over the summer and talk about all the things going on at the city. And most importantly, thank you to the neighbors for coming out and spending what was generally about 2 hours of their evening with us, asking questions and learning more about their city. So I want to say thank you to Tracy Taylor on our team for organizing those, and look forward to them happening again next year. With that, I'm going to look to Pat Fitzpatrick, our Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to rely on my report that is in the council packet tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had 3 regional meetings in the last 2 weeks, and my report will actually be in the council newsletter that comes out tomorrow. With that, I'm going to start on my left here with Councilmember Troutner.
Thank you, Council President. I am Chair of the Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority Governance Board. I also sit on the Regional Transit Committee. We have not met since our last meeting, but I have both those meetings tomorrow, so I will be very busy tomorrow afternoon. And that is all the information I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Troutner. Councilmember Michaud.
Thank you, Council President. Earlier today, I had the Washington Community Forestry Council meeting, and that info will be in our council newsletter. And then on Thursday, we also have the Human Services Commission meeting, which I will be at.
Thank you, Councilmember Michaud. Councilmember Larmer, please.
I do not have a report this week.
Thank you. Councilmember Boyd.
Just a short report here. See, I'm your representative for public safety. We had 2 grants tonight. One was for a full-time DUI police officer for the city of Kent. So that's going to be really good because we do care about public safety, right? So we was able to get that grant. It is a 2-year grant. We had 1 year as a trial, then they got 2 years. That'll be great. And then the second was around Target Zero, right? So we look for areas within the city of Kent for, possible traffic conclusion and so on. So we also received a 2-year grant for that as well, too. I also want to, I have some guilt here I need to get off my chest here. So I'm also a member of the Sound City Association PIT Committee, and we meet the second Wednesday of every month, and 90% of the meetings is working from home. So last Wednesday, the meeting starts at 7, 7:15. I got my computer all ready to go, and waiting, and realized the meeting was in person. So I did not make that, so forgive me. So, but I heard it was a good meeting. So now I feel better. I can sleep tonight. So, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyd. Councilmember Boyd, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Today we had our hazardous waste management program at 10 o'clock this morning downtown Seattle, and we spoke about draft legislation and regulatory priorities revealed. One of the things that we spoke about was our federal legislative priorities, which we are in support of continued federal efforts to advance environmental justice, including the H.R. 576, which would codify Executive Order 14096, providing a permanent legal framework for advancing environmental justice across all federal agencies and empowering the Enforcing Environmental Justice Act of 2025. And what we did on federal regulatory priorities, we were opposed against the rollbacks of federal hazardous material regulations driven solely by policy and not by science, both in rule and in foundational law, such as the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, the Toxic Substance Control Act, and the Clean Water Act. The risk of such rollbacks is great and poses a great threat to our King County residents. And then we also spoke about our state legislative priorities, and one of the items we are in support of in legislation was that the reform the way that moderate risk hazardous waste is collected and funded in Washington State, shifting to an extended producer responsibility model, that's EPR. And then in our state regulatory priorities, we supported subject matter expert, review of Washington State blood-led risk factors to consider additional demographic and cultural criteria and clearer geographic criteria. And there's other items that we discussed, and there were some of the, which will be in my newsletter, this upcoming newsletter, will be from our last meeting that was on the 15th of, no, it was on the 2nd of September, and that's in my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyd. Councilmember Fincher, please.
Thank you very much. My report will have all of the information.
Thank you, Councilmember Fincher. And council newsletter comes out tomorrow. You can subscribe to it on kentwa.gov. Back to you, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. We are moving on in the agenda. Item number 6 is a public hearing. We do not have one this evening. Item number 7 is public comment. Melissa, do we have, I almost said Kim, but I'm going to get the hang of this. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
We have one person signed up, and it is Prem Subdi. And he's going to be speaking on Week Without Driving.
All right, so I want to remind everyone that the public comment period, go ahead and come on up. Public comment period is an opportunity to speak to council and the mayor on issues that relate to the city of Kent and agenda items that council will consider. This is not an open public forum, and comments that do not relate to the business of the city of Kent are not permitted. Additionally, the state of Washington prohibits people from using public comment to support or oppose political campaigns, including ballot measures or candidates for office. We do have a 3-minute timer, and that will be up on the screen. And if you could start by stating your name and city of residence for the record. Thanks for being here.
Hi, my name is Pimantawil. I have been resident of Kent since 2016. Here probably things we got without diving in front of it is difficult to imagine life in Kent without a car, without any sort of since we live in total car-centric city, but one in Paul, Washington can drive or doesn't have money to oppose the car. So without driving it, reminder that our transportation system does not work for all, and we should strive to make our transportation system more equitable and more just. Without driving it on September 29 to October 5, even if you can drive for 1 week, even if it is one day, goal of this movement is to highlight inequality. So, for last couple of years, Kent have I've been really happy with the Kent work of month-to-month transportation, with rights really coming to us in December 26, and airline and a lot of month-to-month things that Kent is doing. However, we do have inequality, we do have site work, lack of site work, lack of bike lane, and road system that remain to be highly dangerous. I mean, last year we had like 2 people died from our road, and this is unacceptable. I ask you to take part in week without driving and see what you think of it. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you highlighting all of these things, and generally don't reply or provide response, but I really do think it's important. So the City of Kent is committed to that multimodal transportation system. I think every one of us up here will acknowledge that there are significant gaps in that system. It's something we're talking about at the city level, talking about at the regional and state level. The Week Without Driving Challenge, you can reach out and find it at weekwithoutdriving.org, and it's exactly what it sounds like. So September 29th through October 5th, pledging to not use your car. Daunting challenge. So thank you for highlighting it and bringing this information forward. Really grateful. Okay. Yes, and also thank you for your service on KBAB, on the Bicycle Advisory Board. Grateful for that as well. All right, do we have anyone else signed up?
We do not.
Oh, Councilmember Fincher.
I just wanted to thank you. I've always looked at this as purely from an ecological standpoint. I care about the air, and I've always thought, well, it's fewer cars on the road. You're the first person who I've heard point out that, the socioeconomic part of that, and not, I know plenty of people don't have cars, but I didn't link it to this week without driving, so thank you very much. Now I'll have to consider.
All right, we are going to move on. Item number 8 is the consent calendar. So the consent calendar is a combination of items that council has received presentations on both at workshop and committee of the whole. These had the opportunity to ask questions, obtain additional information, and these items have passed out of committee of the whole without any controversy. This evening we have consent items A through H. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Item number 9 is other business. This evening, we have one item under other business, and that is the ordinance imposing sales and use tax for criminal justice purposes. We will be kicking off this presentation with Pat Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to give an introduction to this matter, and then we're going to have other staff members come up and speak about different topics relating to it. So you have before you tonight an ordinance in accordance with House Bill 2015 that will impose a 0.01% sales tax to support additional public safety resources in the city. This ordinance is brought forward pursuant to Council's June 17th motion directing staff to bring the ordinance to you for consideration. Since passage of that motion, staff has worked to establish and satisfy all the statutory steps necessary to qualify for both the grant side of this House bill as well as allowing us to impose the councilmanic 0.01% sales tax. But I think before we get there, I want to talk about the background about why this ordinance is important in Kent. And you have heard this many times, I know, but just to summarize, if you look at an aerial map of Kent, you'll see that the Kent Valley is made up of many square miles of warehousing and industrial area. What you don't see in that photo are shopping malls, car dealerships, and other retail heavy shopping areas. And that's important, which I'll explain in a minute. But the backbone of Kent's economy is warehousing and industrial. It's been like that. It's going to remain like that for decades to come, no matter what we do in terms of land use planning. So, and it's important to understand that Kent's hub of industrial and warehousing has a very important purpose to the state of Washington and the economy. Most goods pass through this area when they're coming in and out of Washington. And so Kent serves a very important purpose for every city in the region and the state as a whole. And the challenge for us is that it's very expensive to support this because, as I will explain, the sales tax that we get is much less than what other cities get. And at the same time, it is very, very expensive for a city to maintain an industrial area, mainly because, as Chad will tell you, the heavy truck traffic destroys our roads. It's just a fact. It's what happens. So there's a cost to having that industrial valley that we have, and it's important to understand how that affects our funding that the city has in light of the way the state imposes tax. So as we all know, state imposes sales tax, and when the state collects its tax, it returns a percentage of that back to cities. It's a very small percentage, and Paula will be explaining that when she gives her part of the presentation. But it's those funds that we use to pay for services for the city. We pay for things in our general fund, like public safety and other ongoing expenses like roads, parks, et cetera. So that funding is very, very important to the quality of life for the citizens of Kent. And so a city that receives a large share of sales tax has an advantage over a city that doesn't. And it's a fact of our taxing structure in the state of Washington. Before 2008, Kent did pretty well because the way tax was set up, it was sales taxes were distributed based on the origin of goods. And since we had so many warehousing areas, the originating city was Kent, and so we got our fair share of taxes. But that all changed, and that had a significant impact on the city. At that time, we weren't a wealthy city. We held our own and we did okay. But in 2008, the state of Washington changed the laws about the ways in which taxes are distributed. So in 2008, the state changed to a destination approach to sales tax. So now cities who don't support the warehousing and don't support the manufacturing, but who buy the goods, they got the sales tax portions. We lost, they won. In fact, an unfortunate fact about this is in the state of Washington, when they were analyzing whether to take this action, they identified Kent as, quote, our state identified Kent as the, quote, biggest loser in this proposition. It's in writing, and we had to deal with that. Back then, when this was happening, we had a number of city personnel fighting for months and months and months in Olympia to prevent this from happening, or to reapportion sales tax in some way that it made it fair and not as big of a hit to the city. But unfortunately, we lost that battle. So while Kent lost a massive amount of tax revenue in this proposition, some other cities who have a lot of buying power, they gained. And so that's the position we were put in. For a while, the state provided mitigation to the city of Kent. And for a while, the state did apportion us some sales tax to make up for our losses, but over time, that has been decreasing year over year over year. And during that time, we have gone back to the legislature so many times and asked them to please continue that mitigation. And they have said no. And so this coming year, in June, we lose all of the mitigation money that we have been getting. It's not much right now, but it will completely be gone by the middle of next year. So we're in a tough spot because we lost those funds, but our city continued to grow at the same time. We gained population. We went through 2 annexations, one massive annexation at the urging of King County, and in support of the laws that basically require us almost to gobble up our growth areas. So we gained in area, our service need gained, but we didn't gain much revenue at all in that proposition. So we are and have been and continue to be at a disadvantage from a sales tax perspective. And again, those sales taxes fund our general fund, which provides for park service, police services, roads, et cetera. And when you add into that the fact that we still have all this industrial area, it's very expensive for Kent. It's a pain point for us. We have gone to the legislature, like I said, many times to ask them to provide us continuing mitigation, and that mitigation is running out next year. For the past few years, though, this council has approved legislative requests that we have made. One is to reapportion sales tax so we get a better share or a more equitable share of those sales taxes, and that has not been something the legislature has been interested in doing. Some of our local legislators have supported those efforts, but we have been challenged to even get a hearing at the state of Washington in the legislature. Most recently, we've been asking the state to fund public safety. This is the thing we hear about over and over and over from our businesses, from our citizens. We need more police officers on the street. You know it. We've been talking about this for a decade. And so, fortunately, last year, the legislature passed a bill that would allow for the imposition of a 0.01% sales tax to fund public safety efforts. And while it is not enough to meet the need that we have, that you'll learn when the chief speaks, it does help, and we need to take advantage of anything we can. So we have, like I said, we came before the council on June 17th after the legislative session to ask you if it was proper for us to put this together and come to you with a package that you can consider, and you said yes, and that's why we're here today. I want to be clear that this ordinance, as you will learn, specifies that the funds collected by imposing this sales tax would be used for hiring additional police officers. We're not going to backfund positions. We're going to hire new police officers, and we're also going to, if this passes, we will hire other supporting positions like a corrections officer, a prosecuting attorney, a defense attorney, et cetera. So we're going to have a few people speak tonight. Tammy's going to go next, our city attorney. She'll talk about what is necessary in order to impose the tax. And then our finance director, who will be joining us remotely tonight, Paula Painter, will talk about the implications from a financial perspective. And then the chief, who is also joining us tonight remotely, will talk about kind of where we are with the police department, all the efforts we've made from a hiring perspective, and what the plan would be for utilizing those funds. So, Tammy, I guess I'll hand it right over to you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, Council. Tammy White, City Attorney. As Pat mentioned, House Bill 2015 did two things. Tonight, we're here primarily to deal with the second thing that the bill does. But the first part is it authorizes grants to be issued from the CJTC to various cities. The other part allows agencies, council, to adopt a local sales tax. So we tonight are dealing primarily with the sales tax piece, but the grant piece is relevant mainly because of the qualifications, which I'll get into a little bit. So there are two bits that we have to have in order to adopt this tax. One, City of Kent has to be qualified, and we also have to be eligible. So city is qualified to impose the tax if we've not before had a sales tax be repealed by the electorate through a referendum, or we haven't put forward a ballot proposition that has not been successful. We've never had that happen in Kent, so we're qualified under the bill to impose this tax. We now become eligible to impose the tax if our police department has taken certain steps. And so the bill outlines significant policies, training, procedures that they have to adopt in order for Kent to be eligible to impose this tax. Our police department has met each and every requirement of the bill in order to impose this tax. It includes adopting policies and procedures that are consistent with the Keep Washington Working Act and the Attorney General's Manual. It includes being compliant with the new laws around use of force and de-escalation. Kent Police Department has adopted all of that. All of the state recommendations that have been made, Kent Police Department has implemented, whether that be the training or amending their policies and procedures and their training. So now that we've met all of that eligibility piece, we prove that up by submitting all of the documentation over to the CJTC. And so that was the piece that you authorized through your resolution in June unanimously, was for the mayor through the police department to put all of that together and submit it over to the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission. That submission occurred on July 28th. The CJTC has acknowledged receipt of that. We have not received any information back from CJTC that our submittal is deficient as of yet. Even had they submitted and said you're deficient in some way, state law still allows us to be able to impose the state sales tax so long as we promise to cure any deficiencies within 180 days from that submittal date. We haven't received anything. So we've put together a very comprehensive package that was submitted over to the CJTC that dotted every I and crossed every T to establish our eligibility. Council, through this ordinance, affirms that the City of Kent is eligible based on that submittal and that work of the police department and the policies and procedures that they've adopted. So should council move forward with this ordinance, one piece of it is you would be adopting findings that evidence our eligibility. You would then be imposing the 0.1% sales and use tax. That would go into effect on sales events that occur in January 1 of 2026. There's 75 days notice that is required to be given to the State Department of Revenue once you adopt this ordinance. And that notice has to be given by October 15th. And so this ordinance then directs the finance director to work through and give that notice to the State Department of Revenue should you adopt this ordinance. As Pat advised, this ordinance is different than some other ordinances that other agencies are considering in that it provides dedicated funding specifically for the creation and funding of new positions. This tax will not supplant existing funding that we already have for law enforcement or any other members in the criminal justice system. It does not fill any budget deficits that we have currently. It is only to fund new and additional positions in criminal justice. So the sales tax bill does authorize broad use of it for supporting the criminal justice system. And so what this ordinance says, should you adopt it, is that it would fund new positions for both commissioned and non-commissioned employees in the police department. So that would be police officers, records staff, corrections officers. It would also fund, should there be a need for it based on increased filings, additional staff in the court to process those, or in the prosecution division to process those new cases, as well as expanding our public defense system. So as we need to retain additional public defenders to assist with cases, it would also fund that. And I'm sure there'll be some more details that the chief will go into through his part of the presentation. So I think it is just important to note, though, that this would be dedicated funding that can only be used for the purposes that are set out in the ordinance. And so with that, I think I have...
Councilmember Boyce has a question.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And Debbie, so the grant, so what is the purpose of the grant? And there's a dollar amount? Do the grants happen every year? Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
So there's two different sides. So this tax side is independent and separate from the grants. But on the grant side of it, should City of Kent get to a point where it wishes to submit a grant for that funding, believe it or not, we would actually have a lower priority because we are compliant with all of the state laws that have been enacted. So the grant priorities are that those above us would be those who have not yet established a community immersion program, which we have done. Yep. Second to that would be those who do not currently have co-response teams. We have that. And then after that would be all other applicants. So we would fall into that bottom point of all other applicants because we've already been proactive and adopted some of the provisions already.
Thank you.
I would follow up. There's still a lot of uncertainty around the grant. The funding exists, but a lot of the criteria and how they're going to choose grants, the amount of money that individual cities or jurisdictions are eligible for, all of those things are yet to be determined. The CJTC is really still in the process of setting up their program, so a lot of unknown on that front.
Madam Mayor, we have up next Paula Painter, our Finance Director.
All right, thank you so much. I'm Paula Painter, Finance Director, and we have a PowerPoint. I don't know if that's up on your screen yet or not, but just to kind of walk you through some of the financial information related to this new sales tax. And I'm hoping somebody's able to control the slide.
It is, Paula, it is up there and being forwarded as we speak, so go right ahead.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so currently the City of Kent has a sales tax rate at 10.2%, and that's really in alignment with a good number of the cities within King County. However, it is lower than actually some of the cities within King County as well at this point in time. If you look at that rate, the City of Kent receives less than 1% in sales tax to date. We have, the 1% that we're allowed, but then of course there's 15% that goes to King County of that. And so we do end up with a net less than 1% that we receive. Overall, when a person pays for something, the amount that they pay, the City of Kent only ends up receiving about 9% of the amount that they are paying for sales tax. When we start looking at what kind of impact that may have to the residents of Kent, I'm looking at a couple of different things. First off, the median home or household income in Kent is about $90,000. At $90,000 at the current tax rate, an individual pays almost $3,700 in taxes. And then at the new tax rate, and this is in a year, it is coming in at just over $3,700 in sales taxes. That is $3 a month more in sales tax that a person would be paying. And how that's figured out is that on average, it is been seen that about 40% of the median home income is spent on goods that are actually taxable. And so with 40% of that $90,000, that's how they arrive at that tax, increasing a tax by about $3 per month. In King County, the median home income is $122,000. And so that group, if they're making about $122,000 in that household, they will pay just over $4 more in sales tax than they would have paid otherwise. And then to give another perspective, below the median home values, if a person were to earn about $58,000, they would pay just shy of $2 more per month in sales tax, should this new sales tax rate go through.
Paula, just a quick clarification. That is per household, not per, that $3 is per household, not per individual. So in a family of 4, if they're earning that 90, it's for the entire household, it's an extra $3.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for seeking that clarification. All right. And then, Tammy already spoke to this just a little bit, but with the sales tax, there is notification that has to be given. And the state really limits our ability to change that sales tax rate to 3 times per year, January, April, and July. And then again, we do have to give 75 days notice to the Department of Revenue before we can implement that. This means that if this ordinance were to pass today, the soonest that we could implement this tax is January 1 of 2026. And that would mean that businesses would start charging the additional tax in January. And because there's a 2-month lag as to when the city would get it, the city would get those January collections on March 31st of 2026. So what does that mean for the budget? We're estimating that'll bring in about $3.65 million in additional sales tax revenue. This revenue will be receipted into the city, and it's going to be held in its own little special bucket, meaning we're going to set up an account in which those dollars go, and only allowable expenditures against that revenue will be spent out of that bucket of money. We'll be able to account and show that we did spend those dollars within compliance with the ordinance and House Bill 2015. And at this point, I'd be happy to take any questions because that ends the financial part of this.
Any questions for Paula? Okay, I'm not seeing any.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Madam Mayor, up next is the Chief of Police, Rafael Padilla.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity. I apologize I'm not there in person today. I'm at the Chiefs and Sheriffs Association board meeting, so zooming in this evening. I want to take the council through starting off with the demonstrated need for more officers. Then I want to talk about our success in hiring and what we've been able to achieve there when given the opportunity to hire. And then lastly, I want to make sure that we're really clear on how we intend to use the funds, and we'll go through that. So starting off with the need for more officers, as you are aware, our fully commissioned staff is 170 positions. Currently, we have 5 vacancies, but fully staffed, we're at 170. Washington, as you know and you've heard numerous times, ranks the lowest in the country, 51st, including Washington, D.C., lowest rate of officers per citizen in the state. And that's been the case for some time. Unfortunately, amongst Washington cities, Kent ranks near the bottom third of all the cities in the state that ranks the lowest. So we are significantly lower where we need to be, even within our state. And so that's what we're talking about in terms of need. I wanted to pull together some data to demonstrate how hard and what we are accomplishing with the smaller workforce compared to other agencies. The slide you have above in front of you, hopefully you can make out some of the fine details on that, captures are what we call Part 1 crimes. These are crimes against persons. They're primarily our violent crimes, our property crimes, drug crimes, weapon crimes, etc. And they represent the majority of the investigations that the officers get dispatched to conduct. This is a good comparison of workload in terms of what the officers are assigned to complete each day, and they're a good way to look at apples compared to apples, if you will. These do not include all the 911 calls for response, things like crisis calls, overdoses, welfare checks, traffic crimes, fraud, and others, which also consume a large part of the workload for officers. But based on what we have here, you can see that there are some differences. Starting back on 2022, we had a higher rate of investigations assigned per officer than all but two cities in that comparable list there. Tukwila, which is way high, and if we all can think about that, they have the largest retail space and mall in the state. And when you have a retail industry like that, unfortunately, you have a higher rate of calls for service. You'll see in a future slide, Tukwila also has the highest rate of officers per capita. So there's a balancing act for them there. So we are third in that list, second to Tukwila and Tacoma. I don't understand. I don't have data for you on why Tacoma is as high as it is. So I can't explain that part. Moving to 23, if you remember in that time in 2023, we start to stabilize our staffing. And at one point at 2023, we were 0 vacancies. So we had filled all our positions. And as you can see in 2023, we start moving down the list there, and we started improving our numbers, our assigned cases per officer. So the workload gets more distributed more evenly. And then in 2024, if you notice, all the departments drop because regionally you start to see departments catch up with their vacancies to some degree, but most notably, Kent had the most significant drop. We go down from starting at third, and we move all the way down to 6th highest caseload there. And yes, some of that is more officers to share the work, but if you look at the numbers, that doesn't explain all the decrease there. We are driving down calls for crimes because we're driving down our crime numbers. So what does this mean? Next slide, please. Whoops, let me cover this slide. So the graph you have in front of you there are our 911 calls for service through Valley Communications. That's a unified dispatch center. And each of the different colors there represents a different department. And so if you look at that graph, hopefully you can see it. The very top line that stands out above everybody else there for 2024, that gray line, that is Kent. The line under that, the red line, is Des Moines and Tukwila combined. They share 911 dispatch radio station. The yellow line is Federal Way. They are the second highest calls for volume in the Valley cities. The darker blue line is Renton PD, and the light blue line is the combined radio of the cities of Algona, Pacific, and Black Diamond. So all of those combined. If you look on average, and this wasn't an anomaly in 2024, it's pretty consistent. Kent averages somewhere around 800 to 1,000 more 911 calls than any other Valley Police Department, and including those cities that are combined to share one dispatch radio. So we are the biggest, but even in that situation, we have disproportionately higher calls for service through 911 than the other cities. Next slide, please. So staffing versus comparable cities. If you can see there, looking at the left, going through the slide, we are at the bottom, with the exception of Des Moines PD. We are at the bottom there, and it's been this way for a while. Like I noted prior, if you look at Tukwila, they are much healthier in terms of the officers per capita in their city. In fairness to Tukwila, they have a very small residential population and a massive retail industry there. So they're a different setup than most of the cities, but they still see their challenges. Overall, again, we are low as a region in terms of staffing per capita there. Next slide, please. So why does this matter? You've heard me talk about the impact of crime, right? So we're talking, the first reason is that high level of crime. What we can confirm through our experience and now through data over the past few years is that when you have more officers to do the work, to combat the crime, to move more from reactive to proactive, we can make an impact and reduce our crime numbers in our city. And we've seen that. While staffing is not the only factor, it is a major factor. And I believe that sincerely. You've heard me talk about the vision to get to a place where our officers aren't just going to 911 calls, and where we move the needle so that 90+% of their workload isn't response to things that have already happened, and that we have those community-based patrols and we have preventative measures and deterrent measures out there. And we can only do that with increased numbers. Right? And so in 2024, as you saw in the prior graph, when we stabilize our staffing, that's when we started to see the most dramatic drop in crime rates. Another reason it matters is slow response times. It wasn't that long ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, where if you called 911, it was not unusual to wait 2+ hours for an officer to be dispatched for a cold call, say like a vehicle theft or a burglary or some kind of property crime, which is unacceptable. We've never seen that prior to this last few years in our history here, but it was a significant problem. At the same time, we were able to manage response times between 3 to 4 minutes or less for emergency calls. When someone is waiting for a property crime and they wait 2 hours, the outcome of that is they give up. The outcome of that is they get frustrated, and then we have an increase of underreporting or no reporting of crime. So it becomes a double negative in terms of our ability to reduce crime in our city. And so response times are important. So there's that. Officer burnout is another issue. Not having enough officers perpetuates the need for mandatory overtime. We are a 24/7 industry. We cannot fail. We will not fail. And so we will staff our police squads, our patrol squads, with mandatory overtime. And so we looked at officers who will be forced to work 15-hour shifts and or come in on their days off to cover staffing, and they're required to do so. And the last thing we want that is an outcome of mandatory overtime is burnout. Officers who work too much overtime have an increased likelihood of burnout. It's not healthy for them and their lives. It really goes against all the things that we preach and practice for wellness and resiliency that we want to see in our officers. And having to make those really high stress, rapid decisions when you're tired and have not had sufficient time off can be a problem at points. And so that is something we're always looking at. The other thing is that, it's highly expensive. We pay a significant amount of overtime each year and mandatory overtime because, again, we see it as we do not have an option. We are going to staff the streets and we are going to provide the best level of police coverage that we can. And so that becomes a compounding issue. And mandatory overtime and the chronic workload that is higher than most agencies comes into the last factor I want to talk about, which is officer retention. Our officers are very dedicated and they are willing to make the necessary sacrifices to come out and do the job and protect the community every day. However, over prolonged periods of time, it becomes more and more difficult to maintain the intensity and the pressure that comes with being a Kent police officer. And over time, we will lose officers who have worlds of options at their disposal in terms of where they can work, in state and out of state. We saw that in our recent history. Our officers are highly trained, they're highly competent. I always like to say, if you can do the job at Kent, you can do the job anywhere. And so those departments that may have better staffing, have less crime, less pressure, less danger, those start to look more and more appealing to our officers the longer we have them in this pressure cooker situation because of our staffing. So those are the factors that's why it matters and why this is an important thing to look at. So next I want to talk about our hiring. And I'm very proud of this. And my message here is that if given the authority and the funding, unlike many departments who are still struggling to just hire enough people, let alone hire for diversity, we have the recipe. And I can sit before you and say, we've done it, we know how to do it, and we can do it again. Right? So this first slide here talks about the history behind the percentages of people that we have hired that have come from underrepresented communities there. And I think it's very impressive. I would challenge the ability to find comparable numbers for a city our size in this region and, quite frankly, anywhere in the country. When we restructured our hiring so that we could be faster, better, get to the best and brightest sooner, we also really made a concerted effort to focus on bringing in diversity. And I think those numbers that you see there year after year now, sustained for 4 years solid, indicate this is a cultural change for us. We're no longer talking about valuing diversity and representing our community. We are living it, and we are delivering on that for our community. So very proud of that. Next slide, please. This slide here is just another cumulative illustration of where we're at. If you look to the far, there's a breakdown by race and gender, but if you look to the far right, those are the numbers that I want to draw your attention to in that smaller graph. Pull it up here. I can't see the screen, so I'm going to throw on my readers real quick. So our BIPOC and representation there is nearly 30%. When we started this effort back in about 2020, 2019, our percentage there was closer to 13%. In terms of our female percent makeup now is about 22%. When we started many years ago, it was closer to 9% or 7% at times. So we've demonstrated significant growth there. I do want to note for those looking at the numbers and doing the math, this report is based on what the employees in our department have provided. They're not required to identify race necessarily, so we don't have every employee captured in this graph. However, this represents 181 of our personnel, which is the vast majority. So it's a good representation of what the general makeup of our department is. Next slide, please. So a track record of success. Like I alluded to earlier, and as we've talked about in several presentations to the council, we know how to hire. We know how to reach this younger generation. We know how to reach what we would call non-traditional candidates. We have a culture and a department that people want to come to and work, and they want to stay here. So we can hire. We were one of the first, as you remember, in the state and one of the few in the country that filled all their vacancies as early as 2023. And we've been able to sustain that effort and stay stable in keeping our vacancies filled for several years now. And again, given the resources, we can deliver results. More police officers for us in this last 2 years has clearly resulted in reduction in our crime rates. And so those two things go together clearly for me. Next slide. And then, so how are we going to spend the money? What would we use it for? What's the benefit to the community? Well, public safety is our commitment, right? And so I want to look at this here and reiterate what Tammy had already said prior. We are going to hire police officers. That's first and foremost. But in our effort to do that, police officers create secondary work and tertiary work through our support staff and our courts and prosecutors and defenders. And so you can't build just police officers without the supporting structure. And so that's what we're going to do. We use to hire public safety support personnel in addition to the police officers, but only those personnel that are needed to cover the work that is created by the officers out in the field. And what we're looking at for a breakdown is approximately 10 officers, depending on what the sales tax revenue actually comes in at, a corrections officer, an evidence custodian, a prosecutor, and a defense attorney are the things that we've identified would be the priorities coming out of the funding should it be authorized. So I think it's important in closing to be clear with the council, be clear with the community, that this does not fix our staffing holes. This still falls short in the area of about 20 to 25 officers. But I do think that this is a significant step. I think this is a necessary step in terms of closing that gap. And I do believe we will be able to deliver for our community, and they will see that there's a difference that comes from adding these officers to our current numbers. And I can't impress enough how vital it is that we take every opportunity to get caught up and increase the number of officers we have serving the city. So I'll stop there. And Mayor, I'm ready for any questions.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Boyce.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure who can answer this question, but I think they said March is when the funding should be available in 2026. Do that mean we can start hiring right away, or do we still need to wait afterwards before we actually start the hiring process for these individuals?
I'd be happy to jump in on that.
Okay.
I can't speak to this, but what I can speak to is the revenue. We will get a full year's worth of revenue. The timing will be a little off, but the way the accounting works is there will be a full year's worth of revenue that will be coming in, so there shouldn't be a delay in hiring.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Other questions? Councilmember Troutner.
So just to kind of follow up on that, that means technically we could start hiring at the first of the year, knowing that by March we'll get kind of that January to March revenue and then consistently through the rest of the year. Is that what you're saying, Paula?
Yeah, we're going to establish a budget, and that budget is for the calendar year. So we're going to establish a budget with revenues of $3.65 million, and then the council would then, then we'll have those positions. They can come in, but the council will need to authorize those positions before we can hire them. So that is one of those caveats to all of that, is that those positions will have to be authorized through council, but because budgets are based on a calendar year, there's no reason we could not hire them beginning in January.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Other questions? Okay. I am not seeing any other questions. I'd like to wrap up first with a thank you, before we take the vote, with a thank you to the council for authorizing this process to take place. This is something that as a council, you have been extremely supportive of. You heard all of the history and sort of how we got here from Pat. I'm going to say this, and I don't think it can be repeated enough. We have asked the legislature repeatedly. This is the first step in that direction. I truly believe that should we not take the action to use the tool in front of us, the opportunity to get the amount of tools that we need to make the fill this gap in our community would not exist. So with that, I am going to ask if there is a motion.
Yes. Are you making it? I'm sorry.
Public safety motion?
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make a motion here. I move to adopt ordinance number 4522, imposing additional sales and use tax of 0.1% from criminal justice purpose, dedicated to the use of revenue generated through the new sales and use tax to create and fund new position in Kent local criminal justice system, amending the Kent City Code to add a new code section to provide for the tax, and authorize the finance director to amend the budget as necessary upon receipt of tax proceeds to authorize their expenditure consistent with the ordinance.
Second.
And a motion, a second. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to speak to the motion, please, Madam. This is something I definitely support. I personally, take very lightly to raising taxes, but I'm also a big supporter of the public safety. I've always been that. When I ran my campaign many, many years ago, public safety has always been the focus of my campaign. And I think Pat Fitzpatrick did a really good job outlining all the things we as a council have done, tried to go to Olympia, try to change things, but we have been very unsuccessful, right? So this year, as the chief said, it doesn't fix our problems, but it definitely helps. And I think all of us on this council really care about our citizens, and we want them to be safe. We want them to be able to call the police officer and get someone to them right away. And I know it's anywhere from $2 to $4 per household, depending on the income. And I understand that every dollar impacts the household, but also I think having a good public safety in place where you can call and get someone there is critical. Also, I want to just recognize the chief, because I think many years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, this council had made a statement about adding more diversity to our police force. And I think the data, the chief definitely answered the mail when they talk about making sure that our police officer represent our citizens. I want to give kudos to the chief for doing that. So for this reason, this is something I support 100%, and I think this is something that our citizen, will recognize. It's not a fix to all, but it brings us from 170 to about 180. I mean, technically we should be way over 200, but it's a step in the right direction. So I would definitely be supporting this ordinance. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councilmember Boyce has already mentioned, that our community deserves better. We have been trying for many years. We have been to Olympia. We have done everything we can to increase officers and improve our public safety in our community. And this is the next step we will have to take to ensure that we are able to add on additional positions to make sure our families and our businesses and our community feel safe. So I'll definitely be supporting this because a city as big as us, we have done the job with as little resources as possible, and we have been very supportive of our public safety throughout the whole, during even COVID times. And our chief has shown, that we have a very diverse police force, and we have individuals who are who want to join Kent Police, and we need to create those additional positions to keep our community safe. So I'll definitely be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Troutner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, this has been a difficult conversation for all of us. I will be supporting this as well. I want to say thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you to some of our council members and all the other staff that spent a lot of time in Olympia advocating for additional funding for police. We talked about this earlier. I think if we don't take action on this, we'll have a hard time coming back and asking the legislator to support additional funding for our police department. So again, thank you to all of you for your support for this. Thank you to everyone that's been to Olympia to speak on behalf of this. And I will be supporting it this evening.
Thank you. Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I, too, will be supporting it. Many of you know that I did not want to have to raise taxes, and my decision, I can't reach this decision by talking to some of the folks. As you know, that I am awfully concerned. We heard tonight that some families will forego a meal so they can buy diapers. So I am concerned because people are skipping meals, but I also know that some of those same people, as you know, we do the Tuesday night supper. Talking to some of the seniors, some of the people who are without money, without much money, they too have been victimized and need to feel safe and need to be able to get help when they need it, which is the reason that I am going to vote for this. Adding that extra percentage adds approximately just under $24 a year if you're making $58,740. It's going to be less than that for people who are making less than that. My struggle is for the person who needs to buy for their jobs, because many of those people are still working, who have to buy certain things, whether it be uniforms or things for their work. All of us in this room, that tax, we're not going to see it. We're not going to it's not going to make a difference in the way we shop. but they don't have a choice. We can afford not to, we can choose not to go to a movie, not to go to dinner, not to buy, that sweater, that whatever. If you have a job that has certain requirements, you don't have that choice. You have to buy the black pants because you're a server or whatever it is. And so I want those people to know we have not forgotten them, but I also want them to know that I've also heard from some of them, and the problems that they face are some of the problems that this money will help remedy. Not that we can police our way out of trouble. We know that, which is why we have taken steps and established the co-responder model and taken other actions to help improve public safety, because police officers alone cannot do it. But it takes police officers, I believe, to be able to play a large part of that, which is why I will support this. So thank you.
All right, any additional comments? All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second before us. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Council, I want to say thank you so much for taking this step. I talk to, just as you do, residents every single day, and without question, public safety is the number one thing that comes up in those conversations. This takes us one step closer to helping that become a consistent reality in our community. I also do want to highlight, and Councilmember Fincher, you talked about this, we are a police department that the standards are set by. House Bill 2015 contains many of the components and requirements to be able to implement this tax and be competitive in that grant based on the things that are happening already in the city of Kent. Our residents should be proud of that. It means that we are looking at public safety in a holistic manner. But I do want to really clarify and say again for the record, you've heard many people mention it tonight, what the vote that you just took is to hire additional people. It is to support additional staffing when it comes to criminal justice. That's something different than you will hear across the county or the state in what this tax may or may not be used for. Other jurisdictions have that ability. The House Bill 2015 was very broad, but I really do think it's important for our community to hear. The action that you took this evening is to put additional officers on the street and then the staff to support that. So I just want to say thank you very, very much. All right, moving on. Item number 10 is bids. We do not have any this evening. Item number 11 is executive session, and we do not have one. We do, however, have a closed session regarding collective bargaining as per RCW 42.30.1404A. At this time, I would like everyone in council chambers that is not a part of this presentation to gracefully excuse yourselves. Thank you. We will convene. We're going to do 15 minutes, and there is probable action following the closed session. With that, we are going to go into closed session. Welcome back. Council is reconvening after a closed session for the discussion of collective bargaining as per RCW 42.30.1404A. At this time, I would like to call on our HR Director, Carrie Endicott, for a presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council President, Council members, Mayor. Thank you for your time this evening. I'm pleased to bring forward the contract with Teamsters Local 117 representing our police commanders and assistant chiefs. As many months of negotiations, we have reached an agreement that maintains our competitiveness in the labor market. These updates are essential to retaining highly skilled law enforcement leaders and supporting the city's commitment to public safety. With that, I respectfully request Council's approval to authorize the mayor to sign the contract.
Council, any questions for Carrie? All right, seeing none, a motion would be in order.
Madam Mayor, I move that council authorize the mayor to sign a 3-year collective bargaining agreement with the Teamsters, assistant chiefs, and commanders, effective January 1, 2025 to December 31, 2027, and amend the budget as needed to implement the agreement's terms.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. I want to reiterate what you heard Carrie say, Council. This action that you have taken tonight is really in support of the earlier action around hiring and retention of our skilled and qualified officers. Kent has taken the steps repeatedly to remain highly competitive in the market when it comes to benefits and wages, and this action keeps us in that realm. So as we move forward with the hiring of the new positions, again, this is what keeps us competitive while we're hearing agencies across the state saying we can't find anybody to hire, hiring is a problem, we've got positions and vacancies. That has not been a problem in Kent, and this is one of those reasons. So thank you for taking that action this evening. With that, we are at the bottom of the agenda. I want to say thank you to everyone for all of the work this evening, and with that, we are adjourned.